Hello and welcome, 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 welcome. Uh, this is typically Jerry's spot. He does his live stream every Tuesday. He had some meetings in San Jose and asked if I could step in today, and I'm so grateful to be here. Um, I really love getting to connect with everybody in this way. Today's topic is the final frontier, and it really is about transition and death. Something happened this week, yesterday, that really brought this topic to me. And I wanted to share what was coming up for me. And Rhythmia is a place where we also explore the final frontier, which is consciousness, which is also about death. And here we are at Rhythmia, and it's a death of the self, a death of the ego, a death of the false self. This happens every week here. We call it a death and rebirth or an ego death. It is a reformation of the ego in a powerful way. This is the foundation of healing here at Rhythmia. It happens so beautifully in this container. So if you're interested in the final frontier of consciousness, are you interested in releasing the attachment to illusion and centering in yourself in an authentic way, this is the place to do it. And so on to this topic, the final frontier. I just want to honor for a moment all those who have passed away in our lives. You think about your circle of friends, your family who have passed on. Let's take a moment to honor them, to think about these friends and family who have made this transition. And I want to acknowledge especially a dear friend whose mother passed away yesterday suddenly. And I want to honor, and dedicate this talk to her and to her mother's memory. In every tradition, death is not an end, but an initiation. It's a mirror reminding us of what truly matters. And that's what really came through for me yesterday, was a mirror reminding me of what truly matters. And it really happens in every culture. There's a universal presence of death in every culture. We're coming up to Dia de los Muertos, a tradition in Mexico. And I love that tradition because, if you've seen the dioramas or paintings or depictions of Dia de los Muertos, um, you know, there's skeletons getting married, having babies, dancing, eating, drinking, partying, doing all the things of life. And it's a reminder that our loved ones have life after life in this tradition, a full life that they're living. Bali has a cremation tradition. Bali's cremation tradition is another way of releasing attachment, of reminding us of the transitory nature of the body and the ongoingness of the soul. And so this encounter with death yesterday reminded me of that, of the ongoingness of the soul and of the transient nature of the body. Death is continuity, really. As we see, Reverend Michael says, life after life. There's this ongoingness of life after life. And there are Indonesian traditions and Balinese or Tibetan traditions that believe that you have to think about death 5 times a day to be truly happy. Because when the false self dies, we can actually live. When the false self dies, only love remains. And this is also part of a Sufi tradition. The Sufi tradition also is of dying to the old self, dying to the false self, dying to the illusion. Christian mystics have also talked about death as an illusion and the eternal nature of the spirit remembering itself. So all these mystic traditions, and then Stoicism. I love the Stoic tradition, which, Marcus Aurelius reminds us that, remember, you must die. And I think this is part of the Balinese and Indonesian traditions of remembering death, the Tibetan Book of Dying, remembering we're going to die. We live as if we weren't. But if we remember this, life is more rich. You know, if we can even just ask the question, um, you know, it begins to awaken gratitude in us for what we have, begins to awaken in us a realization that this, not that we can't waste time, right? No pressure, because that's a big part of our culture right now is, oh, we're wasting time. I'm behind. That's a huge piece. Do you feel behind? I feel behind all the time. I'm behind. I'm not where I should be. All of that is an unhealthy pressure. But this gentle remembrance of the fact that I must die. We all will take that path. And remembering that, someone said once, the way of all flesh, remembering that helps us to awaken that gratitude and remembering the shedding of this illusion and the recollection of the eternal spirit. So, death isn't a tragedy, but something that awakens in us gratitude, awakens in us the desire to live life fully, desire to be happy in this life. And so as I reflect on my friend's loss, it was a call that her mother passed away very suddenly. And it brought up so much for me, remembering my parents passing, remembering, and just being around this and being with somebody in sorrow, just being with them, no words, nothing you can say. But it's the shock, the suddenness of it brought such tenderness to me. And, it reminded me that we all have to die to something. What am I dying to today? What did this bring up in me? This experience, this shock, this sudden loss, this grief really opened up tenderness. And that tenderness is a place where we can go allow, we always protect the tender parts. But plant medicine, ceremony, and death is a ceremony, plant medicine, ceremony, these moments in life, these big moments of shock that touch this tender part in us, that touch us to the bone. We got to allow it. We got to allow these moments to touch us deep in the place where we typically try to protect. Rumi says, the wound is the place where the light can enter. And this brings that quote up to me very clearly, that the wound is the place where the light can enter. That if we allow these moments to penetrate us, if we allow these moments to take us to those tender places that we protect and guard, can we open up gently to this and allow something to awaken in us as we approach difficult moments in life? So as I reflect about this personal insight, this personal experience yesterday, just for a little bit walking with my friend. And there were so many other people that were able to stay longer and really, really be with her. And this is it's not one day, right? It's an ongoing process. But it reminds me, of my connection as I think about my parents passing. October 17th was the 11th anniversary of my mother's passing. And last year, on the 10th anniversary, 10 years after she passed away, I was in Cuba. I shared this story last year, but it's been a while. I was in Cuba, and I remembered that it was her 10th anniversary since she had passed, transitioned. And I was thinking about my mom, and she always loved $2 bills. For some reason, she liked odd currency, $2 bills and Sacagawea coins. Do you guys know what a Sacagawea coin is? Sacagawea was an indigenous woman that was actually taken from her tribe and sold in various ways, ends up with Lewis and Clark, the explorers. And because she was from one tribe but taken by other tribes and then sold to white men, she spoke a bunch of different languages and had a lot of knowledge of the different areas that they would be traveling through. And they um, worked with Sacagawea. She helped guide them and introduce them, Lewis and Clark, to the different tribes. There's a beautiful, she was from a place in Idaho. And I was there recently this summer and went to her, to a monument in her memorial. So Sacagawea was this really cool Native American woman who was instrumental in the expansion of the United States, for all that involves, all the difficulty of that. And they commemorated her with a coin. And my mother loved that coin. She just thought it was so important to honor this woman. And so my mom loved Sacagawea coins, and she loved $2 bills. And here I am in Cuba. I'm at the Havana airport, getting ready to fly out of Cuba. And I'm remembering my mom, and I'm thinking of these. She used to give us, rolls of Sacagawea coins instead of money. She would give, she wanted to give you like a little gift, $25 something for a little remembrance. She wouldn't give you $25. She'd give you a roll of Sacagawea coins or $2 bills. She thought those were cool. So here I'm thinking about my mom, and I'm in Cuba. I'm at the airport, and I go to buy a Wi-Fi card. They're $1 for an hour. You access the internet through a card. So I went to buy the card. I didn't have any more Cuban pesos. I just had a $20 bill. So I go to the little stand at the airport. And of course, the Havana airport does look something like 1968 to 1972, somewhere in there, and there's like one souvenir shop and one place where you can get coffee and one place where you can get a sandwich, and that's it. And so there's this one stand where you can buy the Wi-Fi card. So I go to buy the Wi-Fi card, and I say to the lady, "Tienes cambio? Solo tengo este dinero. I only have this US money, and can you make change?" And she was like, "Yeah." And she gives me change in $2 bills, like 4 $2 bills in change. I was like, wow, that's really rare. And then I thought, oh my God, that's my mom. And I took the $2 bills, and I just started crying, and I could feel my mother's energy. It was like powerful, flooding me. And I had to go off in the corner and sit down. And as I sat down, I must look like a crazy person in the airport, because I've got these $2 bills in my hand, and I'm rocking back and forth, and I'm crying. I'm like, oh, and I start to receive messages from my mom, like not in words, but I was receiving these consultas with my whole being, and she was saying things like, this love that you feel, this energy that you feel is my love. It is my love for you. And you must love yourself like this. That was a huge message for all of us. The answer is self-love. The answer is self-love. If I could just drop all of the judgment and harshness and criticism and attack on myself for all the ways that I'm not meeting expectations, not doing all that I should be, not being enough, not, all of that aggression against myself is taking me down. And it's locking those patterns that I want to change in. But the release of that is self-love. And when I can, when I actually can do that, then I'm actually able to forgive others. I'm actually able to release others from the harsh criticism and judgment, because all that projected harsh criticism and judgment is what I am reflecting back. I'm projecting out on them that which I am committing against myself. So my mom's telling me, love yourself like this. You got to love yourself. And I'm crying in the airport. I got these $2 bills in my hand. I'm like, oh my God. And then she says, don't, the messages are just coming. And I just know it's my mom. And I can feel her. And she says, don't withhold love. Never withhold love. Don't let anyone tell you where to direct your love. Love freely. Give your love freely. And never withhold love. Love is all there is. So I'm in this deep, moment, looking like a crazy guy in the Havana airport. And finally the energy starts to subside a little bit, and I feel like I'm shaking. I feel like maybe I can walk. I need some water. So I go to get some water, and I have the $2 bills, and I had a $5 bill. And I went to buy the water with the $5 bill, and the lady gave me change in a Sacagawea coin. It's like my mom was saying, just in case you didn't think the $2 bills, that was just a coincidence. But here, I'm going to give you change in a Sacagawea coin. In Cuba, it would have been odd to get $2 bills and Sacagawea coins for change in the United States. But to get Sacagawea coins and $2 bills in Cuba, that's crazy. So this moment, of remembering the presence of the ancestors, it was from that moment. And this is a way that we can tie this and integrate this idea into our daily lives. So I want to end this with an integration into daily life. So from that moment with my mom, I decided to create an altar of the ancestors. I created this altar of the ancestors. I have my friends who have passed away, my relatives, parents, brother, cousins, aunts and uncles, all who have passed away. I have this one altar in my office with all of their pictures on it. And I light a candle every day and burn some incense, and I talk to them. I've started to develop a relationship with my dead relatives. Now, you may think I'm clinically insane, but I feel like I'm having conversation with them. Oh, hey, Susan. Hey, Driftwood Reed. So good to see you, Susan. I'll see you soon in Costa Rica, hopefully. So I've started talking to my relatives, and the more I want to encourage you to start talking to the dead. Start talking to the people who have passed in your life. Establish a relationship with them, and you will begin to hear from them. You will begin to receive. I can hear my Aunt Nell, who, if you've heard me talk about Aunt Nell, she cussed like a teamster. I can hear her when I'm like, what should I do? I can hear her go, "Fuck them, Jay. Just fuck them." I can hear my mom saying love. I can hear, my uncle saying something. I can hear my cousin saying. So develop this relationship with your ancestors, your friends. I can hear my friend Stacy talking to me all the time, but it's a cultivation. We have to cultivate these relationships, cultivate the relationships with your ancestors, cultivate relationships with the ancestors of the elements. Our ancestors are elements as well: the water, the fire, the earth, the air, the stars, the sun, the mountains. Those are our ancestors too. The trees, those are our ancestors. Can we cultivate a living relationship with life everywhere around us? This is truly living. And it comes from a recognition of death. So I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for this remembrance today. And we just wrap my dear friend in love and her mother and her family, knowing that, she's being welcomed by the ancestors, by loving hands that are welcoming her. And she's fine. Like our loved ones have passed on, they're doing great. We're the ones that need help, the ones that are left behind, because we're grieving the loss of this person in the physical, even though we know their ongoingness. And as we contemplate this, as we cultivate relationships with our ancestors, when we cultivate relationships with the spirits of everything around us, life becomes full and rich, and we're supported. It also reminds me that I'm never alone. I'm never disconnected. And guess what? That used to freak me out. It'd be like, are they watching me do the nasty? But now I'm like, they understand everything. I got nothing to hide from my ancestors, and they love me just as I am. What a beautiful way to live. To know that you're accepted just as you are by those on the other side, because they know the truth. They know that there's no guilt, no shame, nothing to be forgiven, because there's no transgression. For the eyes of God are too pure to perceive iniquity. There's nothing for God to forgive, because God doesn't judge you, and neither do your ancestors. So this is my offering today, as we release attachment, more and more. Release the illusion of the permanence of this world, and remember our eternal soul and the ongoingness of the soul. Thank you so much for joining. I'll be back on Thursday for Walking the Path, where we'll be finishing up our series on conflict and conflicting well and finding unity in diversity. So that'll be Thursday. I'll see you then. Peace and richest blessings. Have a beautiful, beautiful day.